evil spirit that's sent by the Lord. And as you begin to get into chapter 19, you see several instances as we go in chapters 19, 20, of where David is protected. First of all, Jonathan speaks for him and says, he killed the Philistine. Why would you try to kill somebody who hasn't done anything? You even rejoiced. And then, David is playing for Saul, and the evil spirit comes, and Saul throws a javelin at him. And then in the next part of that chapter, in chapter 19, beginning in verse 11, we see where David is protected by Michal, his wife, and Saul's upset about that. And then we see also into the next chapter where David doesn't appear to eat, and Jonathan is trying to defend Saul, and Saul basically throws a javelin at Jonathan. And as I begin to look at that, I see three different situations here. First of all, I see Saul and his spirit and his attitude, and it's just progressing. And it made me think of the fact, when we get involved in sin takes us further than we want to go, and it costs us more than we want to pay. And when you and I don't confess that and repent of that and turn from that, then there's a progression that takes place. And so I was challenged this morning to make sure that I stay right with the Lord. I don't want to go down that progression or that path that Saul went down. But I want to focus on the other two people involved in this situation, and that is Jonathan. Jonathan came to the realization as we read this that he's not going to be the king David is. But yet that doesn't bother him. He's willing to do whatever is needed. He has a humble heart, and he's just wanting to serve, and he would be willing to stand by David and to serve David as the king, and their friendship was close. And I thought about several things with that. Are we willing to just serve? Not get the limelight, not get the glory, not be in a big situation? Are we just willing to do whatever's needed to be able to please the Lord? And that's kind of what I want for my life. I want to be like Jonathan and be like, I just want to serve you, God. And this time has allowed us to kind of reflect. Yesterday I had the opportunity to be able to mow a yard, and it gave me some time of reflection, and it carried over to this morning as I was reading this with Jonathan and his willingness to do, and the friendship that he had with David. That's the connection there, as I see that friendship that he had with David. And I think this is probably the hardest thing about what we're going through, is that we're not able to connect, we're not able to fellowship, and we miss that friendship. And it's made me realize how important friendships are, and wanting to just be that friend and to care. And that's what I want to be in my life. God's impressed upon me. I want to be like Jonathan. I want to be that friend and have that friendship. But then thirdly, we see David. And I think what I see with David through this is David's been through some intense situations. Some things he didn't know about were taking place. Some things were very real in a real time. Having a javelin thrown at you, that kind of would get your attention. But then there's things that are going on behind that David didn't even realize, that Saul was his thoughts and what he was trying to do. And what I see through this is that God provided. God led him down the path. God took care of him. No matter what it was that was going on in David's life, God was there. And that was reassuring to me. That was comforting to me. To know that God's in control. God knows what's going on even when we don't know what's going on. And that we can trust God to take care of things. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. We don't know what next week's going to bring, next month. I mean, if you would have asked us back in December, do you think that the world would come to a stop and there wouldn't be, any sports, anything really going on? People would have to stay at home and not be able to work. We would have probably laughed, to be quite honest with you, at people and said, that's not going to happen. That's just ridiculous. We don't know what tomorrow holds. But what we do know is that God holds tomorrow. He's in control of all things. And what we've got to learn to do is to know that God has our back. He's concerned about us. Now, true, He wants us to follow Him. True, He wants us to have a relationship with Him and to walk with Him. And so I've been challenged this morning to just trust God. It can be unnerving at times. You watch too much TV and too much news, too much media. You can get discouraged, defeated. You can get upset. Just trust God. David had to. And David, to be quite honest with you, was on his own. And we see in chapter 21, David kind of went off and he went to the Philistine king and for help, and then realized this wasn't a good move, and he had to portray himself to be like he was mad to be able to be dismissed from the king there. And so we just need to trust God. Seek His wisdom. If we ask for wisdom, He'll give it to us. We ask for knowledge, He'll give it to us. Get into His Word, walk in His Word, pray, study, and trust Him, and live our lives the best we can. God will provide. So I hope you'll take note of that. Teenagers, don't forget tonight, Brother Burdick will be putting up his video tonight. I think that'll be around 5 o'clock tonight. So you make plans for that and you follow along as teenagers and you guys stay connected. I want to encourage you to do that. Our folks, don't forget tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock, we will be having our morning service. I'm going to speak to you tomorrow about the entrance that Jesus made that week before and some of the things that transpired. And I want to point out some things that will help us in our life that He did, and to encourage you tomorrow morning. So I hope you'll make plans to be with us at 11 o'clock. Of course, we'll be back for Sunday night at 6. We'll be in the book of Psalms. And just look forward to being able to spend time with you. So I hope that you'll make those plans. So we'll see you.